if you take away the political influence at the local government, you have diluted your influence at the federal constituency level, and similarly at the level where you get your senators, the three zones within the state, you dilute your political influence there. It is important that we recognize that it is natural what is happening, that if the tables were turned and there's a different alphabet of the political party, the behavior will be the same. So you have to protect your political turf. Local government elections have been recognized as an opportunity to hold on to the grassroots and strengthen the structure like we use. So this is essentially a tussle for the soul of Osun State at the grassroots level. And it is understandable why the different alphabets that are represented here are taking every logical step to ensure that the outcome is in their interest.
Speaking of these alphabets, these parties, not all of them are fully represented. What do you say about the absence of some of the parties from the elections?
Yeah, but that exactly is, first you have to put that on the table of the parties themselves. The local parties needed to add at least achieve the administrative requirements to be participants from the perspective of the state Independent Electoral Commission, and from also they have to have met the legal requirements. So they need to take a look at themselves and say, what could we have done within the law to participate in it? And if for any reason they feel like they've been disenfranchised, then they can come out and make their grievances known. But clearly, for the State Independent Electoral Commission of Osun State to say elections are good to go, it means that the people who are participants and the candidates and their parties have been identified and put on the ballot.
Okay, so taking into account also the claims of violence and altercations between the political party members and worries about insecurity in the state, how would you assess the validity and efficacy of the Osun State local government polls?
This conversation is a conversation of the judiciary in Nigeria, Mazino, where there are different judgments, one from the State High Court, another from the appeal court. You would wonder, for instance, if politicians are problematic, but I don't think that they are the biggest challenge to our electoral system. The voters may be problematic and essentially are the biggest losers and victims of this. But we need to now take a unique conversation and say, what is the role of the judiciary in all of this? You know, their understanding of the law, their interpretation of the law, and the impact that their interpretation has needs to now be put in the spotlight in a way that is practical, and steps can be taken to correct this. And while we may agree that politicians will do all they can, you know, to walk the system in their interest, it is important that the judiciary brings integrity to the table so that we do not have these types of events where there is a court ruling that puts a number of local government chairmen on seats. There's another court ruling that says, no, all of you were fired. And the ping pong, it's rather embarrassing. And it's important that the judiciary takes a look at itself and actually contributes to building lasting democracy in Osun State and in Nigeria as a whole.
Okay, now let's bring in the names of the parties. Now, considering the conflicting interests and claims of various parties such as the PDP, and the State's Independent Electoral Commission, how would you suggest settling the dispute surrounding the Osun State local government elections be proceeded with?
Dispute resolution can be tricky. There's a political side of things where all the stakeholders politically, and let's be honest with ourselves, the politicians can easily jump ship tomorrow. So from the political side, there's really no offense, because if I'm not happy here, I can go somewhere else and be happy. And I may be unhappy with an individual X, and the next week that same individual becomes a best friend and even potentially a running mate. But from the security perspective, I think that if you put your assets in order and you have your men, you have your systems, you should be able to manage whatever fallout or dispute might be. From a civil side, obviously people need to hold themselves to, bigger moral and societal standards, and they conduct themselves accordingly even when there's room for disagreement. The political parties have a mechanism to address their problems, and that is internal. And when it is external, you still have to go back to the courts that we have highlighted need to hold themselves to bigger standards. So there are different phases, and it's important that at every phase we take the electorate and the overall development of our political and social economy in perspective as we solve our problems.
Aniekan, thank you very much for lending us your afternoon to have this conversation. Thank you.